So something I found really fascinating, I talked about this recently. Tier lists are really interesting to me because when people post them, everybody uses it for one of two things. They scroll to their main and then they go, my main is too high, you've overrated them. Or their main is like really low and then they look for the character that they hate the most and then they're like, yeah, you got my character's replacement, but this character needs to go higher because I always lose to them and they're cheap. And then if all that's fine, then you go, this list is great. But that's very rare, right? That almost never happens. The second thing about tier lists that I think is funny, everybody who makes them gets dumped on. I saw that Jonathan Tene made a tier list, but the amount of comments I saw from people who were just like, this guy's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's so stupid. What does this guy know about the game? How could insert X character here, who's been good for a while, actually ever be good? It never makes people happy. You notice that? You never make a tier list and they're like, dude, I was in such a bad mood, right? And then I watched your content, I checked out your tier list video, and I was like, ah, nice. And then I just had a dope day after that. And one thing I found funny, and I talked about this very recently, is the amount of people who reacted to this. They said things like, Anji not bottom 4. That's how I know this tier list is bad. Anji could never be that high, which is hilarious because it's like, what, they buffed him like 7 patches in a row. You know, he's in the middle basically. And like people were astounded. And then also Happy Chaos down here, this is a very controversial one because this guy won 2 Evos. So in everybody's mind, and probably for at least a year, this is like the best character in the game. Even if he wasn't the best character in the game the last patch. So the fact that he's not at the top already makes everybody pissed. Zato even, like I think a lot of people know Zato is much worse in this patch. But like random people are still mad about Zato being here as they're like, this guy's broken. It's 2v1. It's like a tag team match. You guys probably remember early on in Street Fighter 6, like where people rated all the characters was kind of all over the place, right? Like people didn't know. In the beginning, you guys may remember Nemo's tier list. Nemo had Chun like bottom 3 or 4 or something. And a lot of tier lists had Juri top 5 very early in the game's lifespan. Manon was rated very high. She was like top 5 or top 6. A Japanese player just posted a new Granblue list. It looks about like what you'd expect, right? I mean, these 4 characters, everybody thinks they're the best. These 2 characters, and then all of these characters are the characters I always see in this top tier. All of these tier lists, though, it is very interesting because a lot of them don't apply to most levels of play. People are mad about things that don't even apply to their play most of the time. If you're newer to the game, playing with other new players, characters that do lots of damage and are very easy and have really simple game plans that are fumble proof are S tier. And a lot of times that is not the same characters that are the best characters in the game. It's the same way as like when you're a low level player, Potemkin is like kind of a nightmare to fight. And the same thing with like Happy Chaos is, there's plenty of patches where like non-high level Happy Chaos felt like 2 tiers lower than when you fight someone who's actually good with the character. It wasn't even close. And that's like fighting someone in Celestial who is not the best Happy Chaos players in the world. You just think like, this character doesn't even seem that good, right? Like it's actually astounding the difference between these power levels. I think tier lists are cool in a lot of ways. They're supposed to generate interesting discussion. But what happens is if you look up any tier list video, right? Like let's just type in Street Fighter 6 tier list on YouTube. The graph is always like flat, and then there's a big spike at the very end of the video. You look at the most watched sections, nobody has watched anything in the video. They don't give a fuck about any of the video. They just click this because this part has the full tier list. They load into the video, right? They're at 0 seconds. They go like this. Okay.
Everything is just
God, these guys talk so much. Ugh. So bored. Okay, there we go. They're not listening to a single word you say. Truly, all that really matters is what people think about the characters, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. So like where they actually land on the tier list is almost never the important part. What order they land in is really not that consequential because the difference between a character being 4th or 6th on someone's list is like, it actually does not matter. Like Sin being 1 is not common on most lists, right? Like I think his list is the only one I've seen this. But let's say you just flipped this top tier and it's Goldless, then Soul, then Nago, then Ram, then Sin. Doesn't that just look like everybody else's tier list? It depends on what you value in a character. It depends on where you think they are. And like the difference in power between the first character and this character is probably not that wide anyway. And even same thing here. And it is interesting because even the best characters all have weaknesses, right? They all have problems. Those are like actually interesting things to talk about rather than like this dude right here, this dude 1, this lady 2, this guy 3, this lady 4. And you're like, this guy 4 this guy 6, and then this lady 6 go here where 4 guy is, and like, you know, it's like whatever, man. Some people would see this Anji placement and think he's too low, and some people think he's too high, and some people are like, Anji's still bottom 3 because they haven't played the game in like 2 years, but they still want to argue with someone who plays it every day. Because you have to understand the past perception that people have is like what they hold on to. Like a good example is like if you played the game like a year ago and someone asked you about Sin, everybody would be like, yeah, this character sucks. Like he's really not good. And if you haven't played since then anyway, then like you probably just think he's bad. It's the same thing as like I stopped playing Granblue. Percival was bad. He was like the worst character in the game. So at the end of the game's lifespan, I saw someone playing Percival and I was like, oh, wow, someone's sticking out with Percival and they made it so far. Like he's really bad, right? Like that's pretty impressive. And they're like, oh, no, he's top 1. Something has changed since the last time I played. He started as like pretty good. And then he was the worst character in the game, and then he was top 1. Like, he actually went on a fucking journey. Like, he was everywhere in the game. And I was giving this person so much credit. I was like, dude, they're cooking with bottom 1? What a beast. And then, yeah. When my opponent plays Elfeld, she's top 1. Top 1. The most broken character in the game. This guy Otashi said that he was gonna pick her in tournament, or he picked her in tournament against Leo, and he wept for how weak she was. This is not a joke. You didn't see me weeping when Sin was fucking terrible and I was fighting Nago. That shit was a joke matchup. The fact that I played that matchup with a serious face without just screaming like a lunatic about my opponent, like that is impressive. I think back about it, that character still beats Sin. And thinking back about how it was before, my Gold Lewis rating on Rating Update was like 2200 or 2300. The only person above me was Darkrai. And I was like, top 30 something on Elo. I beat like 99.9% of players I ran into, right? When I played Sin, when he launched, I couldn't beat a Nago player who was trying to qualify from floor 10. That was like 1400 rating. Not a joke. I couldn't beat the worst Nago player to ever try to qualify for heaven. I couldn't do it. I tried so hard. And I didn't weep. I just thought to myself, that's not good. Listen, I'm sure this has happened to you guys. Have you ever booted up a stream and the streamer's like, again, dude, this fucking stupid ass character, man. Like it's so fucking stupid that he just gets, and you just close the stream. I probably do it like once a day. You know, when I'm ending my stream and I'm like, who should I send all my viewers to? And I look around and I see a streamer and I'm like, oh, maybe I should send them to that person. And then I remember this fucking stupid ass character, blah, 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 this fucking game sucks. And I'm like,
Sajam fan,
maybe everybody there would not have a good time watching that. Let's find a different person. Like, you know,